and not have it be 20 times more than it should be. But
Well,
that was literally the case. So I you know,
the food's a lot worse now than it was. A lot worse.
yeah. Well, we can definitely improve that.
All right.
So that's not like I think some impossible thing to overcome. Um, so
Well,
we
but no, I
don't
mean,
have
I
to have
think
terrible
I
food. This is not it's not going to break the bank. The issue is more you can't pay like $13 million a year uh, for a mostly empty building for lunch, and not even including dinner.
I
So
could save $13 million by switching ads prediction from TF serving to Onyx runtime alone.
yeah, I'm saying we can totally have a good lunch.
All right.
We're not in like lunch purgatory for the rest of time. Uh, um, we, you know, like we may have gone too far, is what I'm saying. I admit we may have gone too far in cost cutting
Love it. Love it.
with
Thank you.
respect to the lunch. That could be the case. Um, and, and and so we'll have to sort of we may have overcorrected in that regard, and we can fix it. This is not an insurmountable problem. Um, yeah.
Wait, all right. So I'm like, refactors, food. How about free speech?
Well, I mean, free speech. Let me tell you that if somebody's got to pay the servers, okay, so the speech has got to cost at least $8,
Oh,
because otherwise, how do we pay the friggin' server bill? Um, there's like $1.5 billion ish, of all-in server-related costs. And we're trying to get that lower, but it's a lot. It's like not trivial. And a minimum, like there's like somebody's got to pay the bills. So advertising for sure, but there's some degree of subscriptions. And then on the speech front, like my general philosophy on that is that we should hew close to the law in any given country. Um, so yeah.
Elon, that makes me so happy if that's actually what the policy is. I'm upset when I see Paul Graham get banned for mentioning Mastodon.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Okay. Okay. Uh, I mean, yeah, I think there's a far cry. Look, you can make arguments for Kanye West, you can make arguments for Elon Jet, but you can't make an argument for Paul Graham.
No, I agree. That was a mistake.
Okay. Can people post Mastodon now?
Yeah, fucking
Cool.
post Mastodon all goddamn day long. I don't care.
Yeah, because we're gonna build something way better than Mastodon, right? Like, come on, how hard could it be to beat these people?
From an evolutionary standpoint, how'd that work out for the Mastodons?
I don't know what a Mastodon was.
I still feel like there's something to be said about like open source projects, though. Like you have Linux that outcompeted Windows. You like big networks of like armies of volunteers can maintain pretty complex things. Like like sure, maybe Linux is run a little bit like a monarchy, like George said earlier in the space, but I do think that there's something to be said about open source software in general, and it's like anti-fragility.
I mean, Linux is absolutely run like a monarchy, but Linux is not Twitter. Linux has a large code base because it needs to support many different device drivers and many different devices. Twitter needs to support basic core functionality. And I think open sourcing it, there's no value in the code, right? The operating system has value in the code. The value of Twitter is in the network.
I suppose, but there's still like, composability arguments, right? Like you guys could reuse and other people could build on top of.
If Twitter was open source tomorrow, what would you build?
I
I
don't know.
Honestly, I think we should just post the source somewhere. I frankly,
that would be sick.
Elon,
yeah.
No one would ever get it to run.
Well, I mean, listen, that would just, I think, finally explain
do it.
that is difficult to explain with words, because you can just look at it.
Dump a tarball Twitter source. It's unbelievable.
So
I have two
I
ideas that
think
I
you
would
should just
use
post it
for
all
open
20
source.
million lines of Scala, and you can just watch and read to your heart's content. Because wow,
I think it's actually more.
Promise.
I think those are just the used lines of
round
Scala.
numbers, you know,
Yep.
give or take a million.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just Scala. You know, we have a lot of Python as well.
Yeah,
But actually,
there's a lot of stuff.
Pablo, most open source code quality is like really poor. And on Linux, most of the contributors are paid by like Intel and other big firms. So it's not really a fair comparison at all.
yeah, sure, but you
Yeah.
still have like composability though, right? Like a lot of people can build on top of what they're building, and then that makes like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
that's absolutely true, but who's going to sponsor it? And no one's going to sponsor open source engineers unless,
And
unless
Composability
they're
is not
like
inherent to
interviewed and
open
hired.
source. Composability is a thing that takes a lot of effort and money and time as well. Like there's a lot of code bases that are open source that aren't composable at all. The theoretical potential is there, but it's not like a thing almost always.
no one is going to volunteer to your open source project to come in and do meaningful refactors that reduce the code. They're going to write a feature, be like, please merge it so I don't have to maintain it, and then leave it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
still the open
Hey,
source node.
I have a quick idea, Elon. Is there any way to like gamify getting more people to use Twitter? Because I think a lot of people hear about Twitter in the news. They don't really understand how to use it or get the app and use it. But maybe if there's a way to encourage other people to show people how to use it, it could help get more daily active users eventually.
Yeah. Well, so daily active users have been growing reasonably well, especially if you count real users and not like bots and trolls. So, I mean, like one of the super crazy things that I discovered, I only discovered this like basically about 10 days ago, was that Twitter was being scammed to the tune of $60 million a year for SMS texts, not counting North America. So I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? Like, there's $60 million of SMS text. Yeah, Twitter is paying telcos. Basically, there are telcos who are not being super honest out there in other parts of the world, who were basically gaming the system and running like two-factor authentication SMS texts over and over again, and just creating a zillion bot accounts to literally run up the tab so that Twitter would SMS text them, and Twitter would just pay them millions of dollars without even asking about it. And now this created some problems because I said, well, we got to stop that. And I said, like, cut off any telco that's got fraud above 10%. Now that did cause some havoc in many parts of the world. And then people were like imputing like bad motives to it. But it was literally, I just said to the team, hey, cut off any telco where the fraud's above 10%. That turned out to be 390 telcos. I'm like, damn, that's high.
Oh my gosh.
Outside of North America, so I'm like, okay, I didn't know there were that many telcos in existence. But it turns out there's some, you get to like the fourth tier telco in Belarus, and you got some sketchy things going on.
But
so
now you have people complaining that they can't log into Twitter because their SMS doesn't work.
Yes. And so like now we're going back to the telcos and saying, listen, if you stop scamming us, then we will gladly pay you some amount of money in SMS texts, but you can't turn a blind eye to relentless, bogus SMS texts. So then we're having that conversation with the telcos, and then we can turn them back on and say, listen, you just be reasonable. We'll take 10% of fraud. It's fine. But we're not going to take 90% fraud. So we're not going to spend $60 million a year on literally SMS texts outside of North America. So a bunch of those users were just fake, and like literally for the purpose of running up Twitter's tab on SMS texts. Kid you not, this is insane. So now, but to your point of making Twitter easier to use, like the obvious move I think is like if you download the Twitter app or you go to Twitter, it should put you into the search page, and immediately show you like what's trending. So it's like as opposed to saying, hey, you need to download the app, you need to install the app, you need to give us a username, you need to give us a friggin' phone number, and I'm like making it like an escape room to open a Twitter account. It's like let's we're going to give you a bunch of math puzzles basically to open a Twitter account. And then once you're in the Twitter account, you're just sitting there with nothing to do. This is insane. Um, like you really, it's not clear to me you should actually have a Twitter account at all unless you need to make a right action. Like unless you need to write something. So
Wait.
if you need to like, if you want to like or retweet or tweet or something like that, okay. At that point, yes, you need an account.
Then why did people put the pop-up back? They said you said they could do it.
Which pop-up?
The pop-up that I emailed you the first week that I wanted to remove. The one that when you scroll on Twitter when you're logged out.
I didn't say we should put okay, that's a miscommunication.
Oh, great. Let's get rid of it again. Right? Because I got rid of it entirely. I got rid of it entirely. They added it back and they messed up adding it back so it wasn't dismissible. And then they fixed that 5 days later. But like they didn't mean to make it non-dismissible and it was non-dismissible. And I'd love to remove it altogether.
Yeah, it's not clear to me why, unless there's some reason that I'm not aware of, we should not be prohibiting just a read-only scroll.
I know there's no reason except that people are scared to lose "quote unquote" MDAO.
Yeah, this optimization of MDAO is like I think creating a bizarre incentive structure that doesn't make sense.
It's endemic in the organization. They love MDAO.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that actually matters is like true user minutes, not like fake user minutes, but like this. We're confident this is a real user. We're confident this is this user actually spent time on the app, like as measured by like screen time on the phone, which is since the phone is the primary use case. And then to get like another layer deeper is what we said. The thing to optimize is unregretted user minutes. So I've heard like a lot of people say like, hey, I spent 2 hours on TikTok, but I regret those 2 hours. I'm not saying I don't want to trash TikTok because it's quite compelling to a lot of people, but I do often hear that people regret the amount of time they spent on it. So I think the thing we'd want to optimize for is unregretted, true human user minutes. That's the thing to optimize for, not MDAO. And then with respect to advertising, as I said earlier, you want advertising that is as close to content as possible, where it's a product or service that you want when you want it. Then that's actually useful. It's actually at that point becomes indistinguishable from content. So these are the things to aim for. We're going to get rid of this MDAO bullshit.
And we're going to let's get rid of all the pop-ups. Let's get rid of when you click likes and quote tweets. Because fundamentally, what these things are doing is they're lowering total minutes on the website. People see that pop-up and they click the X.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that it is important to sort of have some authentication mechanism so people can't, so you can't just create 100,000, instances of just to create 100,000 virtual machines and like fucking just create and have them all behave like users. Although at this point with ChatGPT, you could probably just crush, frankly, because ChatGPT would exceed, I think, the. Yeah.
Oh, it's about to be impossible. CAPTCHA is about to be impossible. I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at least we can try. At least we can make it like so it's not trivial to have like 100,000 bot accounts, which it currently is.
The best things to do are like social proof kind of metrics.
Sure.
Gmail. Remember OG Gmail with the invites?
Just follow the tree. So if the referral basis, and if there's one referral that goes sideways, you just look at that, you cut off that entire referral tree. That's how
exactly.
I did at the beginning.
Hey George, can I get 2 questions in or 2 thoughts?
Yeah, what do you got?
So I'm in San Diego on my Starlink right now, so this is pretty awesome.
Cool.
So I'm a father of 4, and Elon, I have 2 ideas to help boost revenue. So my kids, they're going to be exposed to advertisements no matter what. Could we have like a Twitter Nest feature where parents can like let their kids have accounts, and the parents can control what advertisers their kids see? because my kids are going to buy Robux or they're going to be buying stuff no matter what, and I'd like to choose what they're exposed to.
Refactors first.
I agree with that as a software developer. Then the next thing is there are tweets that I want to boost that are other people's tweets, because I just, whether it's a political party or could we see like a paper trail of where the money comes from? So going back to what Pablo said, or is it Pablo? Yeah, Pablo said earlier, how to see through the noise. I think it's a lot easier to see through the noise when we can see the paper trail of the money that it's influencing the tweets. And I think that's what, as an older user, I was frustrated with the bots. And I'm fine with people paying to get things boosted, but I'd like to see what the source is, where it's coming from. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Agreed.
I did see you post a while back about video monetization. Is that a thing you're down to talk more on? Because I have a lot of thoughts after my time at Twitch.
I mean, Twitter certainly needs to enable longer videos. I wasn't clear on what the limitation on the Twitter video length was, but I was recently told that it was a 2 gigabyte file size limitation, at least in the current stack. So, like, it's difficult to have video monetization if the videos are like extremely short. But if you have a better codec than is currently used at Twitter and resolution that is reasonable for a phone, you can have some pretty long videos in 2 gigabytes. But like to first approximation, I feel like the first order is like you need to actually be able to post a sufficiently long video. If you cannot do that, then nothing else matters.
Yeah, I don't think most people have access to that. So when I did that live stream before I joined Twitter, I had to get Media Studio. And I actually got this. My friend was like, oh, yeah, I know a guy in a Telegram group. And he PayPal'd him $30 and got access to it. So that's what it takes to get access to long video on Twitter today.
Yeah. Well, it's again, I have to like sort of a lot of things I should preface by, this is like what I think someone told me, as opposed to like this is the God's honest truth. So that's an important preface for anything I say. What I say may not be true, or at least it's my recollection of what I think someone told me. So I'll take anything I say with a grain of salt. But anyway, if the 2 gigabyte thing is real, then we can actually have long videos with an improved codec. The current codec I think is quite old, and then having a resolution that's manageable on a phone, not super high def, especially if it's something like a podcast where you don't need to like see every detail in high res. Then it's just like basic stuff like having a video ad attached that is at least reasonably relevant to the material. So if it's a video about technology, that the ad is a technology related ad. If it's a video about gardening, it's a gardening related ad. It's sort of stuff that would make sense. Like I said, not splitting the atom. It's pretty basic, and that's what needs to happen on that front.
The main problem that we saw was getting good enough ad inventory for video ad. We found it was a lot harder to build up a large pile of ads to serve a distributed enough group of people, and it took a while for Twitch to even have bucketing of ads for users in the first place. Are you confident in the ability for Twitter to acquire video ad buckets and targets?
No, I think that is a legitimate issue. And actually, if I look at YouTube, because I actually watch YouTube without YouTube Premium, just to kind of see what kind of ads are being served here, and I very often will see sort of nonsense ads that are like quite scammy and irrelevant to the subject. So if YouTube is even having trouble getting ads that are relevant to the subject, then probably Twitter will have some challenges that are significant. But I think part of this is also just like reaching out proactively to companies that do things in a particular arena and say, we have inventory that is relevant. Why don't you try advertising on with something that's in this genre and see how it goes. And then, like I said, if you can actually have a logical return on investment for advertisers, I think en masse they will be logical. You might have some irrational actors, but for the most part, they will be logical. So, yeah. But I do think that the ad inventory thing is an important problem. If you only have ads of a particular type, then you're going to have trouble achieving relevancy because you simply lack an ad that is relevant.
It also has to be a diverse enough set within that, because video ads are much more frustrating as a user to have as repeats. So if you see the same video ad 3 times, it's significantly more frustrating than seeing the same suggested tweet 3 times.
I feel like they're so bad everywhere. I feel like I get that all the time. Like when I'm watching, like I have a cheap Hulu account with ads. It's the same ad 3 times. And I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah. Google's the only platform that's really nailed this. Instagram's doing better here because their ad platform is incredible nowadays. Like Meta's been killing it, but the inventory problem for a diverse set of video ads is really tough.
Yeah.
Doesn't TikTok build a model per user, and they spend something like 10 kilowatt hour like per year per user?
No, I might have spread some of that misinformation. No, you can read TikTok's paper. You can read it. Monolith. It's pretty normal content recommendation engine stuff. They just like do it well. The paper is published.
Is it actually crazy to do that though?
No, and we're gonna start to see that. I think that eventually you're going to build the infinite jest videotape. Eventually you're going to build content that is so compelling that you'll find people just stare at this stuff for hours and hours and hours and hours, and you can do that as the ML gets better and better and better. But unregretted user minutes, right?
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to aim for. I think it'd be hard to argue like, okay, we improved unregretted user minutes. That is definitely a good thing and not a bad thing. So anyway, I gotta throw in the towel here, guys. But I do want to sort of leave off saying that there are a lot of people at Twitter doing great work, and it is super appreciated. So this is like, definitely not meant to be like, let's trash Twitter nonstop. It's like, at least aspirationally meant to be self-critical, and to say like, okay, what can we do to make things better? I just do want to make sure that this does not come across as being unreasonably critical of those who are actually working hard to make Twitter better. With that, good night, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Elon.
your time.
All right.
Very supportive.
Thanks,
Can't wait
Elon.
to see where Twitter 2.0 goes.
Thanks, Elon.
Hey, George, can I ask you a question about engineer numbers?
Yeah.
Originally, why I joined, I didn't think Elon was going to join.
Well, I mean, Elon joined. So after Elon joins, he's like he's the only one who's allowed to say anything about Twitter. I'm not. Like I can't. I'm not going to reveal how Twitter stuff works. I signed an NDA.
Exactly. So I'm a software engineer. Similar situation I'm on a project where there's been a lot of turnover and the skeleton crew. I feel like I'm being pulled between like I want to be doing software, but I also have to understand the business better too. And do you think that's like a bad position to be in when you as an engineer you got to start trying to innovate the business? And
let's bring this space back to. I mean, Elon shows up. He'll take any conversation in any direction he wants. But yeah, let's bring this back to the question of the space, which
Back
is
to tech. Oh boy.
Scale, complexity, and number of engineers. No, and look, it's great to have Elon join. It's so nice to. You think Mark Zuckerberg would show up in a space? And Mark Zuckerberg's not even the worst. You think Sundar Pichai would ever come talk informally about Google? This is something right here. This is something I absolutely love about the new Twitter. Like that.
CEO of YouTube actually does this, which is really cool. Huge shout out to her.
Wait, YouTube does this? Who?
Yep, the CEO of YouTube. Susan Wojcicki, I believe's her last
Susan
name.
Wojcicki has I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She has Twitter Spaces where she just casually talks about YouTube.
Not Twitter Spaces, but she hops into the conversation on Twitter in the replies all the time, and she shows up on really small people podcasts on people who are known for pushing back on the YouTube platform regularly. Cool. She's been surprisingly transparent. I've been super impressed with the leadership at YouTube.
Then why'd we get rid of dislikes?
Because of the net use of them was harmful enough that they decided it wasn't worth maintaining. It was a long battle internally. She has done multiple interviews where she talks in depth about this with both Marquez Brownlee and with Ludwig.
I appreciate that. I haven't seen these interviews. I haven't looked. I've just complained about dislikes. So, look, I don't know. I'm a huge fan of transparency, building in public. It's cool to see.
Hey, George, was this space inspired by John Carmack leaving Facebook?
I mean, that's one of the things too, right? This is really not all about Twitter. We can discuss John Carmack leaving Meta. Yeah, I mean, look at what he said, right?
Yeah, something like 5% GPU usage.
Oh, I feel like I can say absolutely anything I want because I don't work there and I have no NDAs in place with there. Yeah, I mean, look, how much they spent on Horizon Worlds? And then have you actually used Horizon Worlds? Horizon Worlds is the most expensive video game in history.
I've never heard of it.
Exactly. It's their metaverse thing. I've never actually used it. I've only seen videos of it.
At this point, I'm convinced every social media company needs to spend too much money to build a game at their peak. I watched the same thing happen at Twitch. They built a karaoke game. They tried to contract Harmonix to do it. They're like, wait, nope, the scope here is absurd. We're not doing that. And they hired a whole game dev team, and I had to teach them React after when it was a disaster. Good times.
Yeah, I think, the metaverse could be so good, but you need a John Carmack-like character driving it forward, right? Because otherwise you're going to end up with the same sort of blow you end up with at all these companies, and, it'll be terrible. We got some new speakers.
Hey, George. Thanks, man. Hey, I was impressed with the way everyone handled that runway question. That really stuck out. And so I was curious just to kind of download those numbers real quick. So it sounded like he was saying $3 billion a year in cash burn was what he was expecting, with $1 billion in the bank. I'm just trying to track through all that because I don't know if anybody knows, but I would imagine the payroll number previously was probably 1.5 billion cut to 0.5 or something like that. So I'm just trying to figure out.
Dan, I don't think he's supposed to talk. I don't think he wants to talk about Twitter stuff on this without.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
no,
Okay, my bad.
I'll talk about that quickly.
I
because
apologize, George.
I will talk about that for a minute. I mean, I did actually really appreciate that Elon answered it. Again, I know nothing about this. Everything I know about Twitter's financials comes from public disclosures beforehand, and I'm not just saying that. I actually know nothing about it. So I believe what he said was Twitter's burn is $3 billion, and they have $1 billion in the bank, and that's not a long runway.
It's 4 months or something, right?
Yeah. Totally. So again, things all are above my pay grade. I don't work at Twitter anymore.
Just the one thing I think to be aware of and maybe to factor in is just that I believe that the acquisition put $1 billion of debt expense onto the company. And
Elon did say that.
Yeah,
yes, that's correct.
And so I kind of pressed him in a previous space, and I actually really appreciated him engaging with me on it, just like you're saying. And he I think if I were to summarize sort of his answer, I think he kind of feels well, Twitter was going to get run to the ground if he didn't buy it and stuff. And I don't know if everyone else agrees with that, but I think he kind of sort of insinuated that he was worth it for that $1 billion a year of expenses. But that's the equivalent of probably the entire company payroll now or something like that, for one guy. So it's just I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Look, yeah, I mean, look, this is I I can't really speak to that stuff. I know the runway of my startup, and it's considerably longer than 4 months.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that,
Yeah,
and I appreciate you having me on, and thanks.
cool. Yeah, maybe we'll keep this going for another like 5-10 minutes. Uh,
Okay, so if you can talk about Twitter's financials, let's talk about the Twitter's technology instead. I feel like I didn't really get to phrase my question correctly when I asked it last time when Elon was up. So I'll try to phrase it again. I think having all of this custom, non-standards tech stack, a lot of which is like invented in-house by Twitter employees, Twitter developers. Uh, doesn't that like slow down onboarding or working on new features significantly? Why not use gRPC that a million people out there know how to deal with, and instead using Thrift RPC, which is something that maybe 500 or
yeah,
1,000 people
so
in this world know?
Thrift is not at all. This is straight up engineering fact. Thrift was invented at Facebook. I used it while I was at Facebook. Thrift is not the problem. And so also open source Twitter, you can find Finatra and Finagle. So Finagle is a RPC server. Finatra is like a routing engine on top of it. Finagle can do both HTTP and Thrift.
No,
There's
I know
nothing.
these are
Just a
open
heads
source.
up,
That's
George.
not
People are pinning random shit in the like thing on top now. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Oh, I don't care. Just ignore it. How do I? I don't
my
even know.
my point was not that it's not open source. My
Give it to
point
me,
is that how
co-host. I'll take
many
care of
people
it.
out there.
The yeah, okay, so you can say, yeah, there's a developer pipeline problem for a language like Scala. Again, technical debt is technical debt, right? I've never coded a line of Scala in my life, and now you can watch my last 2 streams. I did Advent of Code in Scala. Look, am I an expert Scala engineer? Not at all. But can I make decent pull requests? Yeah, I think now I can. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is technical debt. It's just like technical debt can appear in any language, in any environment. And I think the largest, I mean, I have a neural network framework called TinyGrad. It's 1,000 lines. And well, it's a little more than 1,000 lines, but the goal is to keep it at 1,000 lines because lines are one of the only reliable proxies I know for technical debt. Now, of course, you can game this, right? Anything, once it becomes an optimization target, it ceases to be a metric. This is true, but at the same time,
Yeah, so I've worked on a lot of big tech companies, Amazon, Google. I worked at Google for like 10 years and a lot of teams. And I also worked at a few startups. So like one thing I noticed is with the JVM languages like Scala, I've worked with a few teams that have used Scala, is that, or just any JVM language, is that there's this additive engineering problem. Like they keep adding code. It seems like the JVM languages in particular, whoever, and sometimes, I think like, the JVM languages, like they almost encourage, I feel like, code bloat and lines of code. And it's like no big deal. There's so many advanced tooling. There's so many, the tooling around these languages is so good that they can
yeah,
just pump out, the IDEs can just pump out code. And then it gets to the point where it's not readable. It's optimized for writing, right? All the refactoring and stuff. So they're not optimized for reading because the tooling is so good, right? And so you end up with like tons of code. And then when people want to add features, they, instead of reading the code that's already there, which is enormous, they just write it again. It's like,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was gonna first say, like, why would the VM have anything to do with, right? I can run Python on the JVM if I want. I can go get Jython. So I don't think it's the JVM
It's mostly the
itself, but I
libraries.
agree.
The libraries, there's so many libraries and there's so much tooling that you end just with like enormous amount of code.
I think it
You
is
keep like
tooling.
dancing around points I really agree with, but then the details are nonsense. Oh, it's like I largely agree with you here. I don't think any one of these things is the problem. It's not
Well, no,
libraries, it's not the JVM, but like
wait.
absolutely we're at a point now where things like you can write much more code much more easily because the tools are getting better every day. I think we as like an engineering like community need to figure out how to deal with that reality where the average engineer isn't as talented because the bar for engineering has gotten so much lower because the tools are so much better.
But I think what
I
Jeff
mean,
was saying earlier is kind of right, though, is that like every company just has all these bespoke different tools and all this like complex little like onboarding thing that takes, like it probably takes a month for someone to ramp up into any of
not Facebook. Not.
Yeah, Facebook killed it with their tech.
Tots, would you agree?
Facebook killed it. Exactly. How good? I was full time at Facebook in 2011. How good was Facebook's tech?
I was genuinely surprised they had to do layoffs because they've been able to hire so lean compared to the amount of like product surface area they cover. It's nuts. Like the way they architect everything is incredible.
These are the arguments I kept making inside Twitter. I'm like, guys, and people are like, George has no idea what he's talking about. I'm like, I've seen Facebook. It's beautiful.
Hey, it's CSH alum here from 0508. Long time, man. I was wondering if you would agree that with the direction AI is going, I feel like with how much code exists open source and accessible to AI, I feel like code monkeying work of computer scientists and software engineers is going to just continue to get less and less, and it's going to start to become more of a who can communicate with the engine the best and the most creatively.
It already is, if you think about it, right? So programming, unlike say truck driving, is already tool complete. So I mean, to specifically talk about the JVM thing, it may very well be, and you can like do this as a controlled experiment, that like do IDEs like IntelliJ, which have all this autocomplete boilerplate functionality. I think it's actually IntelliJ.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you're right. It's IntelliJ, and it's going to get worse with ChatGPT and all this code generation. It's kind of we're like it's not going to be good.
I mean, yeah, I don't even think
it depends on your perspective. Worse, right, or better.
No, the AI code stuff is ridiculous. AI code generation is ridiculous, and like it's just the whole thing is laughable. And here's why: programming is tool complete, meaning what happens. Accounting is also tool complete. When you build better tools for accounting or programming, you end up with less accountants and less programmers having leverage to do more work, right? This is in contrast to something like Walmart cashiers or truck drivers, right? No matter, the truck might get better, but you still need the driver to log the hours. All right, fine. You can say Walmart cashiers is a bad example because, okay, now you have one person overseeing the 4 self-checkouts, and maybe that is the same thing with technology. So we'll stick with truck drivers, which is like not tool complete. But the AI code generation in of itself is like, well, why do you need the extra step, right? What do you want the AI to do?
Hey, George.
And I think
George, one question right on the topic I think that you are trying to address is where are you at on in terms of how many employees or engineers are ultimately needed just to sort of get the job done or kind of have like a good, healthy work-life balance, like that sort of thing, like in terms of
work. I think I don't like work-life balance. I think work-life
or whatever
balance
it is you want, and the people there want.
No, I don't think I think work-life balance is a stupid concept. I think that work is life.
Take that part out of the question. Just kind of like
how many engineers do you need to do what? Right. It all depends on what the task is. Right.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through like sort of what's kind of the unifying vision that's going to bring all the engineers at Twitter together. Like I liked some of the feature points Elon made about like showing the views and how that would raise a lot of interest. I thought he had some like interesting ideas, but like what's the sort of vision, and then like what support do you need from whatever the powers that be are above you as teams to get the job?
Wait, I don't work
at Twitter for the folks at Twitter.
I don't work at Twitter. I don't know anything about Twitter. I resigned from Twitter today.
I want to talk about AI
for various reasons. Okay. I'm certainly down to talk about AI and AI coding.
Cool. Okay, I misunderstood. Thank you.
Sure.
Can we go back to the AI code stuff?
If you're a speaker right now and you're not speaking, please step down and we'll let some new people join.
Hey, George.
I'm stepping down. Thanks.
I'm sorry if I wasn't supposed to pin up top, but I pinned that little bit about the Amber Alerts. If an Amber Alert goes off in an area and a car happens to drive by a Tesla, what are the odds it doesn't? Can the camera scan its license plate, make, and model and beam that instantly to authorities? And I figure this would be a really great application of Tesla. The fact that Tesla has
camera. Who's writing that? Oh, we got to write code. We got to test it. Ask ChatGPT. Maybe ChatGPT can do it.
The reason why I even float that idea though is because of course I think there's something bigger here that Elon might be playing at, right? Is 5D chess, which is he has all these cars mapping the roadways and noting the cars that are driving by him. So now that he has Twitter with phones with geolocation in other drivers' pockets, Honda Accord drivers, is he going to be able to pinpoint when the Honda Accord passes by the exact location of a Tesla?
Again, how much?
Hmm?
You know what? Features are really easy to imagine until you have to write them, right? Until you actually have
Ideas
to
are so cheap.
Ideas
That's
are so
true.
cheap until you have to like make these things sort of work at scale. So you say like, is this what someone's planning? Like, it doesn't matter what someone's planning. It matters like what's actually going to get built. And yeah, look, I've been working at Common now for 6 years. You know how like easy it sounds in theory to make maps from our data? Oh, we have all the data. We know where all the lanes are. We have such an accurate GPS. Yeah, good luck making maps.
Productizing a good idea is the hardest part. I agree. But I do think that Tesla is particularly good at making awesome product, unlike Twitter was.
Well, I think that you can do certain things with organization, but it really is a different product, right? It is a different product, and there are some challenges. I mean, Twitter is not perfectly horizontal scale, right? Tesla is pretty much perfect horizontal scale, not entirely perfect. Or I'll say comma. Like comma is pretty much perfect horizontal scale. We have some things where all the cars connect to the server, but all the driving is done locally on the car. So that scales perfectly. Like there's no complexity to deal with there. If you make it work on one car, it's easy to make it work on all the cars. But if you make it work on one Twitter app, making it work on all the Twitter apps might be
Not so easy. Yeah.
I think Elon kind of brought up a really good solution though, which is like just incentivize people to delete code. Like refactoring and deleting code and simplifying isn't sexy work, and no one really wants to do it. But I mean,
wait.
pay them more for deleting code.
That is all I wanted to do at Twitter. That's all I wanted to do. I was there to refactor and make it beautiful. I don't know, but you see, the problem with refactoring and making beautiful is you got to do that instead of features.
Yeah, exactly. I guess just pay the people more who are refactoring.
No, it's not a question of paying the people more. It's a question of if you have 400 people dumping shit into a pool and 100 people shoveling shit out of the pool, the shit still becomes, there's still so much shit in the pool.
But at what point do you say fuck it and just build a new
Delete
pools?
bounty.
I think
Just
they're
make a
at
delete
that point
bounty. Bug
now.
bounty.
Well, and you know what? I mean, in this is one of those remind me in 5 years kind of things. Remind me in 5 years, and let's see. I'm so curious to see where Twitter will be and what their infrastructure will look like.
I mean, also that's essentially what ended up happening, right? Yeah, the timeline mixer was deprecated and the new rewrite of the home mixer was implemented. Did it work?
Well, did it work? What do you mean, did it work? There's now both of them.
Yeah, it increased the cost, but did it help the tech debt?
No, you have more shit. There's more shit in the pool. You didn't take any shit out of the pool.
This is like a slight wrap back to a topic earlier around like efficiency and like the AI stuff.
Yeah.
I think that the problem we see in a lot of these larger companies, especially the ones that like do lots of different features, is how they transition from I've noticed a pattern. I think there's a term for this, but similar to the Moore's law, where every 2 years processors get like twice as good. Every 3 years, any given piece of software becomes 2 to 3 times easier to write. And if your company's been around for 17 years, a lot of efficiency has been unlocked by us improving the tooling that George, you and I, as younger guys, we look at these services and we're like, what the fuck? This could be like 100 lines of code instead of 10 services that are thousands of lines of code. A lot of that is a shift in the industry based on all the tools that we use now every day. For me, AI is another one of those where certain languages and certain architectures that right now are inefficient to write because of the just raw amount of code, for something like Golang, for example, where you're copy pasting half the code you write, something like AI, specifically like Copilot, can make you much more efficient as a developer. I think what we're seeing is one of those 2 to 3x moments in real time, but I don't think we're seeing developers die. I think we're seeing yet another advantage to the people who are willing to start from scratch and take advantage of the new way to build a pool.
So, with respect to Golang, I mean, that's a very deliberate choice on the language designers. It's like, well, we have all these people, and like, let's be honest, they're not smart enough to code C++, so we'll give them Golang. And like, that's the real justification for it. And I consider myself one of those people not smart enough to code C++, and that's why Golang is nice. But that verbosity, like, the very explicit, painful error handling in Go, having to actually check each error code, it's there to encourage people to think, right? So you can go and pave over that with ChatGPT, but then you just get people who don't think. Right? And then the whole point is kind of ruined. Like, Go was very deliberately designed that way. I can't speak to how Java was designed because that was all before my time, but I remember when Go came out. I watched all this happen.
Well, sorry if this is a Jason topic, but is Copilot's biggest or like barrier to adoption just installation, the intimidation of installation, and with the price of Copilot, would customers would they be price elastic enough to like pay an extra $99 to have like an Uber-like service nearby?
Have you used Copilot? I didn't find it great. The same thing with ChatGPT.
I got multiple top 100 in the world placements this year in Advent of Code using Copilot. Once you learn how to work with it as a tool, it's kind of like Vim, where you have to learn to train it, like know how to name a variable, leave a comment, and trick it to writing the right code. But it's a tool in that way, like you have a relationship with it.
And if you're trying to play Advent of Code, where you're trying to do it as fast as possible, sure, Copilot might help you.
I also worked at Twitch for half a decade and run a company and wrote half the code for that too. It works really well in all these environments from my experience.
You find Copilot helps you, because I don't.
Yes, when it conflicts with other tools that I find as if not more helpful, like when it gets in the way of TypeScript's type definition autocomplete and stuff like that, it can get annoying. But I do often find it improves my velocity and experience as a developer. When it hits, and if you know how it's going to miss, and you'll learn quick when you use it, I'm going to have it write this algorithm. I know it's going to put these two things in the wrong place. I'm going to delete this one and move this one somewhere else. It makes me feel better as a developer the same way I did when I first got really into Vim, but it takes a bit to really feel that.
So do you like autocomplete in general?
No.
Yes. When it's guided and you have a good type safe system that is defining the autocomplete. I'm really big on full stack type safety, and autocomplete IntelliSense, like the Microsoft way where it guides you to the right line of code, is something I'm really big on.
I find I hate autocomplete. I never use any autocomplete for anything. The things that I like with IntelliSense,
maybe mobile texting. That's about it.
What?
Maybe mobile texting, because it's so annoying to try to get that's the only time I use autocomplete.
Oh, yeah, no, this is specifically for programming. I like that I can right-click on a function, it takes me to the definition. Even if that's only correct 90% of the time or 80% of the time, it's still a lot better than, having to grep for it. But I don't know. I find most autocomplete
So I run a podcast where I talk about all of this type of stuff. I've had the creator of React.js on. I'm going to have the creator of GraphQL on soon. If you're down, George, I'd love to have you on to show you how my stack works and how the T3 stack stuff goes, specifically because I think you'll see when you have full stack type safety implemented from your database to your user, autocomplete stops being a thing that annoys you and starts being a thing that guides you to writing the right code the first time. Always. It's so powerful when you have it set up right.
Let's set it up. Let's set up a live stream, and I will give this stuff a try. Look, it's the kind of thing also where I'm sure if I don't know, I don't really like tooling. I like absolutely minimal tooling. I used Vim for a long time with nothing, no plugins, no nothing, and now I use VS Code pretty much the most bare bones you can make it. But
so I'm a little embarrassed. I did not. I was using I said Copilot earlier. I meant to say OpenPilot. We were just talking about Copilot. I used the wrong word. What I was trying to ask, odds as if it was with OpenPilot was the with the cost of the system in general, and if installation is intimidating for it is a barrier to entry for adoption, then would an increment of $99 extra for an Uber
installation service in local... yeah, you know what, you run that service. I'm bored thinking about it. No, really. By the way, we are dropping, now that I got 14K people here, we are dropping an incredible video tomorrow on Comma's Twitter. Remember how I said we were going to drive to Taco Bell by the end of the year? Production car, Comma 3. Look, I don't want to run a business. I don't give a shit about any of that. I want to solve self-driving cars. I want to beat Tesla.
And you hit a deadline. Look at this.
Where are you posting that video, George?
What's up?
Where are you posting the video?
Oh, right here on Twitter. I mean, it's the best.
Excited for it. If you want any help with the YouTube strategy, I'm a big fan of helping with YouTube strategy stuff. I help a bunch of like Y Combinator companies. It's something that's just, like I'm nerdy about the YouTube algorithm and how to make it tick. So if you want to chat about that, I just had a video go viral about AI recently.
Yeah, it's not that good. I mean, I don't really care. Like, it's more of a like. A lot of things at Comma are. We have a thing where it's like, I don't really care what people think of me. Perception is so meaningless, right? Like, let's actually just solve self-driving cars and let's build something that's 10x better. And then, like, I don't care what you think of me. It's just 10x better. Like, you have to use it. I'm sorry. And we think of a lot of like the programming stuff like that, like OpenPilot, their entire OpenPilot, which can drive a car with 0 disengagements to Taco Bell, is smaller than most of Twitter's microservices.
Well, Twitter might be a bad bar to compare with, but yeah, I get the point. That's incredible.
Yeah, but but it comes down to it's because the same number of engineers worked on both, right?
Wow.
It's just the thing that will determine how many lines of code your thing will have is strictly a function of your number of engineers and a function of nothing else. And I think that kind of brings the space full circle. Does everyone kind of pretty much agree with that? Give or take.
Why did Twitter need that many engineers?
I largely agree. I think that the way things were built when Twitter started and the way things are built now are different. And a lot of the chaos that we now see as obvious is like obvious in hindsight.
Very much agree. Yeah, I think that I know that whenever I'm writing something, the first time I write it, it's terrible. The second time I write it, it's like kind of okay. You can sort of see that it's going to be good. And then the third time I write it, it's actually good.
I have one challenge for this now that I'm like really deep on the product side. The first version's often enough to figure out if you have product market fit. And it's often not worth me paying you as an engineer to build the second and third version until we know that the product has some market fit. Sure. If you have a system where you can identify that and then go build version 3 when like a very small subset of users are on that early V0, awesome, do that. But I think the problem is we're trying to find product market fit as cheap as possible. And then when we find it, we keep building on that awful V0.
I think nobody has doubt that Twitter has product market fit. I think we can afford.
If you add new features, we don't know. We don't know if Twitter Blue is going to have product market fit, and I know that because I can't change my profile picture right now because I'm a Twitter Blue user. I had an automation set up to change my profile picture whenever I went live, and it didn't error out when I became verified through Blue, and now I can't change my picture anymore. My account's in this weird locked state.
Just growing pains.
Rush the feature out to test it. It's not growing pains. It's experimenting in favor of product market fit.
Yeah, I've got the tweet pinned up here at top. Sorry if that's not okay, but I just thought I would. But I think that it's true though. Like it would be awesome to have more feedback mechanisms into the core teams at Twitter. So like if like there's a feature that just makes a lot of fucking sense, like you could just have that feedback directly from the users or something is broken. And then getting those information systems into the core teams so that they can really iterate on that product market fit. I mean obviously Twitter already has it, but
you can add anybody at Comma and you can discuss their features with them. I can't speak to Twitter, but I could say, Comma, everyone's pretty much on Twitter. And you can add them and ask for features. I don't know. Like I love building in public. I think that so much secrecy is incredibly stupid. I think it would be so cool if Elon actually dropped a 3 gigabyte tarball full of
If he
Twitter
did that would actually be insane. If he actually open source all of it.
You want to sit there and try to read it? You're welcome to my last 4 weeks.
I mean, it would actually like that would be mind blowing. If he just was like, yeah, here, you fucking solve it.
I mean, no, you're like, okay, I hope he actually does. Secret's like a literal like AWS token. Right, everyone's got those in their private code basis. All right, Ashok's got his hand up.
Yes, hi. Is there any ideas and possibilities on having unique profile pictures to reduce fake profiles or reduce abuse?
Wait, the last thing that you could possibly ask me about is Twitter features. By the way, I'm in the Twitter should build zero features camp, and should just do refactors for the next 6 months. So that's my take on any asks for Twitter features. But look, I'm not even at Twitter anymore. I don't even work there. I resigned today.
Were you joking? So you actually worked there? What were you doing?
I was trying to fix all this shit.
I literally live across the street. How do I go to help fix all the React bullshit?
The React bullshit. Look, I don't work there. I don't know about any of this. I mean, this.
George,
I know,
I got a
trolling you,
question
man.
about comma, actually.
All right.
So let's say the best case scenario is comma turns into like a $500 billion company, right? How many?
I don't know if that's the best case scenario. That sounds like people want to come take it from me.
What do you mean by that?
I don't give a shit about the money. The money's fake, guys. Do you believe in the singularity or not?
Okay.
The money does not matter. The singularity matters.
Conspiracy aside, right? But how big?
That's not a conspiracy. It's a social
Yeah, okay, all
construct.
the money's fake. I know.
All right, good. The money's fake. Yeah. Go on.
How big would comma grow? Because you can't operate that. Like, you would need at least a team for compliance alone.
Compliance? With what?
I don't know, like people getting in car crashes.
What if people get in car crashes? What does that have to do with me?
Because you're the CEO and you'd be responsible. But that's not. That's
No.
But
Comma's a level 2 system, and it's open source.
Well, the goal is to be level 4, right? Or full.
The goal is definitely not to be level 4. I have no idea who.
I think you're on full driving.
Be level 2 forever. Actually, you know what the long-term goal of comma is? The long-term goal of comma is to have a shop in the mall where you go in and you buy your new comma body, and you bring your comma body home with you, and it cleans your house, and it cooks you some food, and you can even have sex with it if you want. Now that is the goal of comma, right? What's a compliance? Go to my store at the mall. Drop 20 grand. Walk home with your comma body, hand in hand.
With how much shade you still I'm surprised Elon came into your space, dude. It's so funny.
What? Elon came into my space?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Dude, Elon's chill, man.
He's a troll too. I get it.
No,
he was not happy when he asking about ad tech initially. Thank you for defending me on that, George. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate. I got mad respect for you for that. I did not expect that at all.
Thank you. No, look, I think he was pissed at the other guy, and I think he thought everyone else was like that. The other guy was literal, like just annoying him. But no, I mean, look, what you said about ad tech was like absolutely right, and anyone who works on ads like knows this.
Yeah, I was surprised It sucks because I really want Twitter to survive, and ads are how you survive in this economy, and he just doesn't get a lot of it.
Yeah, look, you know what? Whenever I think about a decision that Elon's making, I remind myself that he's a billionaire and I'm not. So whatever his process is for making decisions, it's better than mine.
So I have a thing I call reset theory, where it's very easy when you go from one place to another in terms of areas of expertise to think that your current expertise carries over because you're an expert, you're on top of your shit. And I made this mistake when I was on top of my game as an engineer thinking, oh, I can move over to running a company. No, I can't. It's not that easy. It's really hard to do. I thought when I was popular on YouTube, I could just move that over to TikTok. No, I absolutely can't. It's really hard to do. Going from one type of company to another, from a space where customers are paying you money to a space where advertisers are paying you money to have customers watch their stuff is such a huge shift that it's easy to see certain patterns and the fundamental truths, the one-dimensional solutions that you're familiar with, which in Elon's case are people like your thing, people buy your thing will be successful. That's not true in this space. And the axes you've defined yourself on aren't even the same here.
I mean, I think it can be true. I think that one of the things that's baffling to me, you look at Twitter's old things, how is this company possibly spending $5.5 billion?
Yeah, there's there's two extremes here, and they're way past the too big extreme. But there are, and I agree, Twitter's spending way too much money. They're way too big. They had a lot of debt from both technically and the architecture of like the company
And
itself.
financially.
They were fucked on all of these dimensions.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Elon's knowledge of how to start a business successfully necessarily carries over to how to make a successful advertising platform on a given social media product. And a lot of the things he's used for his successful career are specifically like harmful in this space. Like those truths don't exist here.
But you're talking about somebody who sold flamethrowers out and burnt hairspray. I think, like, out of anything, he does know how to generate money. And this is just, it's almost like thinking outside of the box where you just have to apply it in different ways and obviously limit your spending in some ways. But I think it's just, fine tuning his expertise in other companies here and really learning as he goes. Like, he's not an expert there. He didn't really understand the code base or how chaotic it is. Somebody who, like, I worked at GM and you have a lot of legacy shit where they keep stacking shit and they get some new integration tool and everything's just this big ball of different technologies that don't really even connect well, but they just work. And once they work, people just don't want to dive in there and refactor it. So I think it's just more so of, getting the right guys behind it that can connect the web a little bit better than it already is.
There definitely are some truths to running an advertising-based business, but at the same time, this business is not being built from scratch, right? Like, Twitter was bought for $44 billion. You only need to make this thing profitable to stay alive, right? There are a huge number of users on the platform that, even though you might not be doing ads as efficiently as Meta, it may not matter if all you're trying to do is stay alive, because the fundamental cost to run something like Twitter, this isn't a car company. At a car company, you have margins. And your margins are, you don't make the engine, you buy the engine. Maybe Tesla makes the engine, but GM don't make the engine. Actually, maybe they do make the engine, but they don't make the brakes, they don't make the steering wheel. So there's no real, what's the actual cost to running Twitter?
I also want to do that Elon's mentioned this before, and I think this is like huge, is that he's going to start incentivizing content creators like on Twitter.
Features!
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is going to be a game changer.
Features! Who's going to build them?
All the like Substack people, all of the like YouTubers, all of these people that can make money, they can do it on Twitter.
No,
I mean,
I think it's a bad idea.
So,
like this, dude.
So right now, Twitter doesn't have a path to profitability. We've said a couple things throughout the space, like Twitter has product market fit. It has product market fit for a product and a market, but we don't know how much money it can make. And there's two paths. We can try and raise the potential for money to be made so that it can either raise more money so it can get more runway and be bigger, or we can say, okay, Twitter is good enough today. We're going to trim everything from here, from the waist down, so that we know we can fit it under the amount of money it can make at this moment. It is hard to do both at the same time. And when we choose to refactor now, we are choosing to do the latter.
Also, one of the things from a feature standpoint that you got to realize is, like with Twitch, for example, right? Twitter Spaces is one of the reasons why Twitter Spaces is so special is because there is no video. You are just doing voice. You're able to focus on that conversation. And when you add,
they copied Clubhouse.
When you add in video, right? You're creating an arms race now. It's like with Twitch, right? Like as soon as you have video now, as soon as somebody starts getting like a green screen, it starts doing picture overlays, it starts doing animations, and starts doing getting a ring light. It levels up the quality bar, and now there's like the barrier to entry starts to get larger over time. It creeps up, and this is what happened with Twitch. And now, like, if you want to start streaming on Twitch and be competitive,
if you think that's what happened, like you've said some stupid shit, but saying that's what happened to Twitch really like icing on the cake. God,
yeah, that's exactly what happened, and it's also why like.
I disagree that that's happened with Twitch. I stream on Twitch with the absolute lowest budget bullshit, and I get a lot of viewers.
I'm literally streaming on Twitch right now to 1,000 viewers, and I'm using a $300.
Yeah, but you can't make a living off streaming to 1,000 people. No, you can't.
I can, especially since my YouTube gets 2 million
videos
that I produce on Twitch. I worked at Twitch for fucking half a decade. I know how the shit works, man.
you can be successful. Those things, this is like I think this is the same people who think you need a fancy keyboard in order to program. I think these things, the high end people get them, but I don't think they really have much to do with your success at all.
They don't have to do with your success,
Hey,
but it absolutely limits the pool of people who can find success, right? There's always going to be the outliers. There's always going to be the exceptional people who find something creative to do. They do
Dude,
You can buy a
PewDiePie like
$600
shot that
phone
shit on
from
the
Apple.
webcam.
What?
Yeah.
You can buy a $600 phone from Apple and be a top YouTuber with it right now. No questions asked. Like the quality you can get of like recording and quality, both video and audio on a cheap Apple device from the store day one is insane.
I was
You're
actually
just wrong on
looking
this.
into buying like a real high end video camera. And then I like was watching some stuff, and then I was shooting some stuff with my iPhone 13, and I'm like, it's not really that different.
No, but good luck being
The 13
good luck being
is-
successful without being able to graphic edit your thumbnails, without having title cards, end slates.
Yeah.
Like, these things matter tangibly to
Watch my stream.
You have no idea
bullshit,
how
and I could
many
easily
YouTube
buy
again
channels I manage,
discoverability
man. This is so
and for
funny.
making a living.
It's all about that following.
All right. Off topic. Do we want to end it with one key thing? The scale, complexity, number of engineers. We all agreed that we only need 20 engineers. The trick is finding the right 20 engineers. Everything can be built with 20 engineers except rockets. They might need 50.
I think
One framing I want to offer you for this, George, this is the thing I try to talk a lot about. I think about problems in dimensions, and it should be our goal as engineers not to make the dimension we're working within as rigid as possible. It should be to have as few dimensions as possible. So things like auto scaling, that's a dimension you have to work to maintain. Things like global distribution, that's a dimension you've added of complexity. You can make those rock solid and hard, and keep them like in good places, but you're fucked as soon as you have to make changes. My goal is almost always to reduce those dimensions and make it as simple as possible. And tools like serverless are a great example of how to do that. And I think that that's the future we're going to see. That's really exciting, is a future where we're able to reduce complexity, not by picking better languages or writing better code with better engineers, but simply fucking like building things that don't have those problems in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that's the real truth of the ChatGPT revolution. It's not going to be whether you ask your ChatGPT to write Python or Scala. Like, I think we can almost abstract away the programming language. When can the AI just directly do the compute?
I think the issue with Chat GPT is that, there's certain things that it won't be able to know, like the integration or the creativity that comes from the engineers, or like certain times where they
Total
asked it
bullshit.
to,
Total bullshit.
yeah.
Total bullshit. I promise you that creativity is absolutely nothing, and the AIs will blow out of the water any human creativity very
Well, I
soon.
won't say creativity, but more so of like asking it to write a React application. It's using deprecated libraries, so staying up to speed, or depending on how many things you actually want integrated with it, like how in depth will there be like a questionnaire to be able to build everything, or kind of like I guess a build, I don't know, like a list.
As far as staying up to date goes, those things can read the internet so much faster. I can retrain the model so much faster than a human could read a book, right? Well, actually, that's not exactly true, but like you could imagine this kind of being true in the limit. The new systems that I think are going to move to, right now, they store all the information in the weights, but you could store all the information in like kind of like a memory bank, and you can do retrieval systems. Facebook just came out with a paper on this, but I don't imagine it being a questionnaire. I imagine it being a conversation.
But I think that there's something to this, though, that like AI can't really, like there are different kinds of creativity, right? Like AI can take different ideas and synthesize from different domains way better than any human could, right? Because it just has such an insane breadth. But that breadth is composed of all stuff that humans already know, right?
So is yours.
Learning on top of.
So is yours.
So like there's some types of creativity that AI, I think, will never really achieve. It's more a tool, but there are some domains and some things that it will create, obviously.
Right.
I promise you guys that this stuff is not true. There is no type of creativity that the humans have that is unique to them. You say the AI is just a synthesis of already existing ideas. That is all humans are, right? There's absolutely no difference.
Well,
And you know what? Everyone who doesn't believe this is going to be in for a sad awakening, I think.
Well,
I'm almost entirely with you. My one piece of
Right.
pushback is that AI has these levels of creativity. The thing it doesn't have is understanding, and I think that is where humans excel.
What
Is
the
their
hell is
ability to
wait. What is understanding?
When something's working, why is it working? That's something AI you can use AI to help it give you additional insight on, but the decision, like, there will always be a level of decision making that comes down to a human, and we will keep moving that higher and higher up and keep getting like to do cooler things as a result. But we're always moving layers. We're not necessarily removing humans.
This is okay. So this is a smarter take on it. I still think it's wrong, but I think it's less obvious that it's wrong.
I think that it's that AI, I don't think will create new paradigms of thought, you know? Like AI will incrementally improve and synthesize a bunch of different things, but we're not going to get a whole new paradigm of like green open field. Does that make sense?
Well,
no, yeah, both of you are wrong. We've already passed this point. OpenAI wrote that Dota bot a while back, and it was like inventing like new strategies and like metas in the game that like pro players have never seen. And then they were trying to play against the OpenAI bot to get better at it. We're like at the point where we're learning from AI. It's like the human's wrong, or it doesn't.
Yeah, there's definitely no paradigm type of creativity, any of this. None of that's true. There is a question of the agency of AI. Theo, maybe that's what you were getting at. You're like, well, so the AI is always going to sit below humans. It's just going to be like, does it sit right below executives, right? Like as you kind of move up in an org chart.
Yes, to an extent. There's a level of like, which product should we build next? And when different products have different responses from users, which should we double down on? Which engineers or which people don't necessarily make sense to keep. But AI can help guide us to the right decisions for a lot of these things.
Okay, go ahead.
My concern is the cost of certain like AI making expensive decisions easier to make is different from AI making expensive decisions. And it will be a long time, if ever, where we should let AI regularly make the expensive decisions for us when we could instead use its insight. And if we disagree with the AI's decisions and make different ones and fuck up as a result, there's a person who you can hold accountable for that. And I think that
did you see that on Twitter? The IBM memo from 1970: computers can never make decisions because they can't be held accountable.
Yes, and I do think that's a real problem outside of the dev world.
I don't.
I feel like one of the things AI will never have is experience, learned experience, right? I can read all I want about childbirth. I'm never going to fully understand that experience, and AI will lack that for basically every human experience. And I don't.
After he said that way, I understand why you were so against my take, George.
Okay, we're the people with takes on AI that really make no sense. Just from speakers. I mean, like, I can. The problem with these things is you get at the bottom of what these people are generally saying, and they eventually get to something like AI can't experience qualia, and you can. The AI will never know the touch of human skin, and this is just completely meaningless. There is no such thing as consciousness. There's no such thing as qualia. Now, to talk about the difference between tools and agents, that is a real thing. That is a real thing that has a real science. You can the loss functions look different, right? So agents usually come when the loop is closed. And to come to your exact example about products, you're like, well, the AI is not going to choose the product, right? The AI is going to help the humans. The humans are going to look at how the product's performing. The humans are going to tweak the product, put the new one out, maybe with the help of the AI. Yeah, but why not just close the loop entirely? And if your worry is because you're afraid, well, the computers can't be held accountable, well, it's terrible. I mean, maybe today where humans and AIs are on kind of similar-ish playing fields, humans are actually still better. Sure. But someone's eventually not going to have that taboo, and that company's going to crush you.
Hey, George, I have a question about modern security. What do you think about like the new iPhones and the new consoles, and like they're much more difficult to hack compared to like back in 2017 when there was like the iPhone 3GS on like the Xbox
That was a long
360.
time. It was a long time before 2017.
I mean
Yeah, I mean,
2007.
but so when you say they've gotten harder to hack, you can quantify this. You can talk about how many dollars an exploit costs, right? And the price of exploits has gone up a lot.
Yeah, and you have to be a near expert. Like you can't be a teenager doing this, right?
The best people are probably still teenagers or close to teenagers. They always are. It's just one of those things that selects for. I promise you, the best exploiter in the world today is probably like 24. It's just I don't know who they are. I haven't kept up with the scene, but I bet you that's true because it's just like the way your mind works. But yeah, the cost has gone up a lot. But I don't know. That actually might not be because it's harder. It's harder to say if it's actually more difficult. Like I'm not sure I could really do it anymore. But it's like then I watched the generation before me. I watched like Charlie Miller be like, "Oh, there's ASLR now. It's hard." And ASLR was never a thing for me. And now you have these like new kids who are like, yeah, of course it takes 9 exploits and we have to break out of 3 sandboxes. No big deal, bro.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. The other thing too is I was just reading that the like Gen Z is less technically advanced than like millennials, if that makes sense.
The youth, man, the world is falling. The youth are corrupt.
What do you
I think
think?
Socrates said that. That's all bullshit, man.
You think so?
With less technical. The Greeks were complaining about how the youth were corrupt and couldn't do X, and they didn't know the virtue. Whatever. This is a meaningless thing.
Hey George.
All right, cool.
Hey George, I just have a question. That you have any unfinished dream ideas for Twitter, or weren't they listened, or anything that you still feel that is pending with Twitter?
No, look, I don't work at Twitter anymore. I don't know. I think one of the main things it comes down to is Elon wants to build features, and I would do refactors. But I did like that Elon said that even if it's not me, I do hope that Twitter employees get some good quality food. So the food matters a lot to me. I mean, it's important to me, no? Come on,
George, you might need to change your profile picture to "I do not work at Twitter anymore. Don't ask me Twitter questions."
Yeah, we're gonna get a few people who ask me Twitter questions. I'll start coming up with good, snippy responses. Maybe I'll start spreading misinformation. I love spreading misinformation. All right, cool. Thank you, everyone, for being in my space. Check out Kama's Twitter tomorrow. We got a fire video dropping. It's gonna be good.
DM me so we can schedule that podcast.
All right, sounds good.